understand that we are scattered around the students. You have students in Quick, you have students in Williamstown, Potsdam, and you need them in one central place for you to have a mass meeting. Now, for you to have a mass meeting, you need to ensure that you requisite transport. Now, requisition takes 3 days, and you requisite through the institution. Now, where do you requisite in an instance where the institution is shut down itself? You see, now the problem with the strike is that if we want to have form of a mass meeting during the strike time, you need to make sure that all students are in a central place. And the problem with the strike is that students are not participating in the strike. We were not moving from streets. You'd have about 200 students, and I think we were 7,000 in the institution. And once you have 200 students on the streets, it means that you can't have a proper, fruitful mass meeting in that instance. So the problems was that we couldn't get logistics to organize a mass meeting, and therefore the SRC has to take a decision on behalf of the students, because we gave them power to decide for us. I mean, on our behalf. You see, so in an instance where we can't get hold of students, we then have to take decisions. Then on the issue of corruption and allegations, my understanding is that the SRC went out for benchmarking, because we're under a process of formulating a new constitution, because the constitution we currently have, SRC constitution, is a constitution that is just it's I don't know who did that, but it's a nonsensical constitution, if I'm allowed to use that word. So they were out there for benchmarking, and whatever happened, I mean, if you are in a hotel which has a TV, just because you want to benchmark, does it mean you won't watch TV because you were there for benchmarking? So they were located in an area which had a swimming pool, so they had to swim, they had fun, and fortunately enough, everyone was there.
Okay, but you just said that you guys have to have a request for transport, but the Lebanon, they actually got a requisition for transport to actually go there. But and I said also it's the school's fault, where you guys knew that you guys were supposed to have a mass meeting on a Monday. Why couldn't you guys, as the Sasco, postpone the mass meeting for another? Because there are unanswered questions that there's discuss A, B, and C, and that again. So how is it the school's fault where you guys are actually in charge? And the money postponing, I need to run the money postponing for any, and then wait for the 3 days to actually get transport for people to actually buy. And also, you guys have a Facebook page up where you could have released a statement stating that this mass meeting because of irreversibility and Nayasma. In terms of the transport, it takes time for us to process that. Why couldn't you guys do that?
Okay, well, you can't postpone a mass meeting to end the strike, because it means if you postpone a mass meeting, you say the institution must fully operate, and then you have a mass meeting after that. So the mass meeting is there to decide whether or not the strike should continue or stop. So you can't begin to postpone it, because for the school to operate, we have to say it's fine, you can operate. So we can't requisite anything without a mass meeting. And if we don't have students in our close proximity at any time when we need them, then it means that the SRC has to take a decision. And fortunately enough, this is not a question that needs only to be answered by Sasco, because Sasco will understand that we only have 50% of the seats. Therefore, we need the other 50% for any decision to be made, which is why we've been deadlocking in some issues, because you'd find that as Sasco can fruitfully engage on what we want, and then the other 4 will just disagree. And then when it comes to voting, then we can't make a decision ourselves. So it can't only be answered by Sasco. They can answer, I don't know what they will say, but we can't postpone it. And the issue of benchmarking, it was a planned thing before even the strike commenced, you see. Okay. So if we say the strike is over, we had requisited transport for benchmarking before the strike. So that's the case. Some other things were done before strike, and then when the strike continued, some things could not be done, and other things were already ready.
Okay, no, okay, thank you very much. We'll have spokesperson, if I may say, or chairperson with SO to actually speak about this matter. But Jan, would try striking because I'll resolve or welcome mass meeting. The next time that doesn't happen, what do you have to say for yourself?
Okay, thank you very much. On the issue of the strike, in some cases, the SRC can make just happen, because sometimes there are emergency cases, and what we need to look at first, our campus here in East London, we have students in main campus in town, King Williamstown. It's not easy to organize a mass meeting within a space of a day without requisition. And if we don't have a momentum on our strike, you will find out in the main campus they are relaxing, while us in town we are on streets. And we can't gain the momentum of the strike because when you go to our Facebook page, you will hear that some of them they are in the motive of the strike, others are against it. And once you see that as the student you are separated, that's whereby we need the SRC to intervene. As per memorandum that we have given them, are there any achievements? If they see that 80% of what we need has been achieved and 20% is not yet achieved, I think on that, SRC is obliged to take a decision. Thank you.
So EFF, what do you have to say?
Well, first of all, I think it's very much important for us to understand that EFF Students Command is not in SRC.
Okay. Let's put it that way. For you, do you think that it was actually fair enough for Magutra, because of the to discuss it as T's and C's, but then the next thing, strike, not strike, mass meeting as Macron?
We must first understand as to why, or ask a question as to why the strike was then called from the beginning.
Okay.
Because it was called because we were said that the conditions that our students are living in our residences are not conducive. The same residences that were then approved by the SRC at the beginning of the year. They did not notice that from the beginning of the year, I think so. But then now they came to be saying after some months, the conditions are not conducive. And so a strike was imposed by the leading political organization, which is Sasco. And so we must also understand what democracy means, because it means simply that the government that is there for all students and led by students. We can never at any point of time take decisions without first consulting our constituency. That is why there are mass meetings for students to voice out in terms of their views. Unfortunately, that did not happen. So in short words, I can by each and every time when we are having a strike or a mass meeting call, we are having the same item that has been even in previous years.
That's
so
actually true.
That leads to the question now. Currently, the students are late.
All right, thank you very much. It's actually what you're actually saying. It goes back to when I was looking for the as a student of the university, and then because I think they actually. And I think that they had to go to each and every resident to check if the state of the race are actually. But we'll move on and let's go.
Yes, I'd just like to briefly answer. I don't think it's fair to agree that the living conditions are not conducive and then further say that we impose strike. But then we need to understand that the priority that we had at the time is that students should have a place to stay. After they have a place to stay, we can work around how to then ensure that the place to stay is then improved into better standards. Because what would have happened if we had no place for students to stay? Would we have enough students to study this institution? We don't believe so. So that's what I'd like to say in that.
Thank you very much, sir. This is a very cliche question that I'm about to ask all of the gentlemen. But if we were to vote for you in terms of the election,
okay. Well, I think firstly the issue of corruption is a very broad question, because one would have to answer whether or not which parties are corrupt. Is it the SRC? Is it the management, or is it the students themselves? So once we figure out that part as to who is corrupt, then we can be able to answer that question. Because without knowing who's corrupt and who's not corrupt, then we can't really answer on that one.
Okay, thank you very much. On the issue of corruption, as the latter speaker has said, but on our case as the political organization, looking at the management, we feel that there is a corruption in our institution, more especially in the management. I think there is a misuse of funds in terms of the infrastructure that we are living in, our labs and everything. You will hear in January that so much money has been injected into our institution, but after a few months, there is no money to do this, there is no money. How come? I think somewhere, somehow, there is a corruption somewhere in the management that hinders us.
I think before we can be able to address the issue of corruption, it goes back to that saying of first addressing or conscientizing the leadership that we are having, or the one that we are trying to have. Because the reality is that you cannot have someone who is not militant and radical enough to lead our students. Because once you create that blender, you're going to have someone, as we have seen, that is part of the management and that continues to sell our students out. Just currently, we are having someone within the SRC, that very own person is doing training within student affairs. And that comes and brings a question to you as to which side does this gentleman is on, because at the same time, they are representing the students, but at the same time, they are within the midst of the people that we as students leaders, we claim to be fighting. So I think we must first have a clear definition as to what a leadership is all about. But also the management is not immune from this problem, because just recently we have had a scandal of a student that has been given 40 million within this very own institution. Of course, we are not condemning the student, but also the management, which is the institution, somewhere, somehow created a blunder in not being conducive enough to combat corruption within this very own institution. But the question of leadership is very much core.
Sanibonani ecalathi. Khuluma.
I think there was a case of
Serious the
it
commission.
became preferring license in the LGBTQ community. We went by lawyer to face Facebook.
LGBT, it's this thing here, gays. You could just ask